Good afternoon. My name is Heather Graham. My husband Reed and I farm Graham Farms in Campton, Kentucky, which is located in Wolfe County. A little bit about us. Reed and I both graduated from Morehead State University with Bachelor's of Science degrees in Animal Science and General Business minors. Reed works full-time as an equipment operator for our state highway garage, and I work full-time for Kentucky Farm Bureau as an insurance adjuster. Where we are, the top picture, of course, is a map of Kentucky. The county highlighted in yellow is Wolfe County, so you can see we're in the east central part of the state. And the bottom picture is an enlargement of Wolfe County, and we are farming the area within that yellow circle, so we're in the southern tip of our county. To give you an even better idea of where we are, that's a map from our PVA office. The red lines are roads. That's not an outline of our farm. But you can tell we're in the mountains. We've got a lot of trees and a lot of hills, very little cleared land, and even less flat land. Pretty sure there's none in Wolfe County that I've seen. But the majority of the cleared land that you see there is land that we're farming. Pasture, hay, that sort of thing. If I can work that. This down through here is land that we're doing for hay. And then this holler here, that holler there, are two that we're using for pasture fields. So keep that in mind throughout the presentation. We don't have a lot of nice, flat, rolling land. We're going back and forth from farm to farm, trying to do our production. So what do? We do hay and pasture, which is what we're here to discuss today, but we also have a small cow-calf operation. The majority of our herd is Hereford and Hereford Cross. We also recently purchased some registered Braunby heifers, and that's one of them there, the top picture. And we also have a firewood business. We specialize in hardwoods. We sell to individual customers and also to a state park in our area. What we market. In 2014, we sold 15 weaned calves, 200 4x5 rolls of hay, and 1,400 small square bales. For our firewood business, we sold 2,900 bundles of firewood, 250 bundles of kindling, and 38 pickup truckloads. So where we're farming and how we're doing it. If you'll recall that PVA map, I told you the majority of that cleared land is what we were doing for farming. For our hay production, we're farming a total of 12 farms, anywhere from 1 acre to 20 acres. We have to take what we can get. We have 118 acres in hay. In 2014, we had 498 rolls of hay, 25 rolls of haylage, and 1,750 small square bales. The two farms with the plus signs are farms that we're doing on a share system. Somebody else's land, we're putting the hay up for them, they get a portion and we get a portion. The two farms on the bottom with the asterisk are custom baling operations. Somebody else's land, we're putting the hay up for them, they get all of the hay. So how we're doing our farm for pasture. We've got a total of 5 farms with pasture land available with 86 acres. We've got 36 head of cattle that we're putting on that 86 acres. You'll notice the Kels Holland farm with 20 acres does not have any cattle on it right now. It's a new farm I'll talk about a little bit later, but we're in the process of getting it ready for cattle. So our management practices. These are practices that we have found that work well for us in our operation and our area. And I'll talk about each one individually. But we're spraying herbicides, we're fertilizing, we're bush hogging, we're reseeding and interseeding, and we're moisture testing. The picture there gives you a good idea of what we're doing for hay. We've got long, narrow fields with trees on both sides, and you can see what kind of shade we're dealing with, and that just reiterates the importance of moisture testing our hay. Our broadleaf spray program, that picture there is from one of our hay fields, so you can see we do have an issue with broadleaves. So what we're trying to do to combat that is in 2014 we used 2,4-D. We applied that May through July, and that was mainly to control our ironweed population. Depending upon the field, depends on whether we go through the entire field with the tractor and sprayer or if we're able to just go through and spot spray. We applied crossbow at the same time. We're using that for our tough stuff, our brush, our briars, thistles, things of that nature. And we did that the same way as the 2,4-D, either spot spray or go through the entire field. And we also used Roundup. We did that in July and August, Mainly did that to control Johnson grass in our hay fields, and we just went through and spot sprayed those. Our fertilizer program, in 2014, we used mainly triple 19 at a rate of 40 to 100 pounds per acre. That rate varied depending mainly upon ownership, if it was land that we owned or if it was land that we were leasing from someone else. But it also depended upon productivity needs. Was this land that's being used for hay or cattle, and how is it already producing? We applied the fertilizer in April and July, before the first cutting of hay and after the first cutting of hay. We realized triple 19 may not be the best thing to put on every individual field, but where we are in a rural area, we don't have a lot of farm supply stores that carry fertilizer. The closest one to us is 45 minutes away, and triple 19 is mainly what they have available all the time to buy in bulk. Our bush hogging schedule, we bush hog our pasture fields between the first and second cutting of hay. There's no exact science to when we do that. It's just when we have a little bit of spare time to go through and get those pasture fields. The main purpose of doing that is for weed control, especially ironweed. We want to control that ironweed and reduce the risk of pink eye for our cattle. But we also do it for beautification purpose. We want our farm to look nice. Our fall seeding, this past year we seeded in September. We used a Potomac orchard grass at a rate of 20 pounds per acre. We also used winter wheat as a cover crop at a rate of 50 pounds per acre. Now these three pictures are not from this past fall seeding, but I use those to emphasize that because of the other management practices that we're using, these are the kinds of stands of grass that we have. The top picture is reed standing in one of our hay fields, and you can see the red clover is about knee high. We've not seeded red clover in several years. But because we're fertilizing and because we're spraying, that all came back naturally. We're also moisture testing. We moisture test our hay. We're looking for less than 20% moisture. And for our haylage, we're looking for between 40 to 60% moisture. Most people in our area do not moisture test. But through services with the Extension Service and also through our education, we know the importance of testing our hay before we put it up. We just use the tried and true microwave test. It's been pretty accurate and effective for us. And we've noticed that since we've been doing it, our profitability has increased. The quality of our hay is better. There's not as much mold, so our customers keep coming back to us and are buying even more hay than they were before. So what are we doing different for our area? Now this may not be different for some of your all's areas, but for our area, these are not practices that have always been used. But we're using haylage, we're net wrapping some of our hay, we're rotational grazing, we're creep feeding our pasture. There's a new farm that we're upgrading, and I'll talk about each one of those individually. Our haylage opportunity. As I said, we do moisture test our haylage, looking for between 40 to 60% moisture. We don't have the equipment ourselves. We're able to lease the wrapper from our local soil conservation board. So we're not maintaining that equipment and we don't have that cost. It's just a minimal lease fee. As with anything, there are drawbacks. With the haylage, you've got a little bit of extra expense with your untreated twine and the plastic, and some extra disposal with the plastic. Fortunately for us, our county has a free dump week in the spring, so we're able to collect that plastic throughout the winter and then take it off in the spring. But the benefits of the haylage far exceed any of its drawbacks. You'll recall we're in the mountains. We don't have a lot of sunlight. We almost have to pipe it in. And so we have a trouble sometimes getting our hay fields to dry out and get down to that 20% moisture. There's only one other farmer in the county that does haylage. So there's no competition really for that piece of equipment. So that means if our hay's not drying out or if we see that a storm's about to roll in, we just go to town, grab the wrapper, bring it, and start working our hay. You've also got high protein, TDN, and nutrients available to your cattle. We've also noticed there's less bale waste. Our cattle treat it like it's candy and hardly leave any of it behind in the field. And you've also got less trips over your field. We're not tethering our haylage, so we're not going over that field another time and compacting that soil. And if nothing else, you've got a good decoration in the wintertime. You can make yourself a snowman. This is a picture, or two pictures rather, of one of our haylage bales from this past year. We use the same roller that we use for our regular hay. We just make it a little bit smaller than that 4x5 roll, so we're not putting as much stress on our equipment. And then the right picture there is an up close of that same bale. You can see there's still quite a bit of green there. And then that bottom picture is the wrapper that we get from the county. We're also using net wrap. If you'll recall, we produced 498 rolls of hay this past year. We have 3 barns. That doesn't all fit in those barns, so we have to find a way to store that hay outside, but it not all go to waste. The net wrap gives us that opportunity. Maybe only the outer 3 edges of each bale is going to waste, so that helps us to not have everything go to waste, and we've wasted our time and our money. We're also rotational grazing. There's not a lot of available pasture land for us, so we really have to maximize what is available to us. Rotational grazing gives us that opportunity. We're currently rotational grazing on 2 of our farms, but our hopes are here in the very near future to be rotational grazing on all 5 of our pasture farms. We're also creep feeding pasture. The top picture you can see the calves are in a fenced-in lot. You can see there's a little bit of a slope there. It's not really good to go over it with our hay equipment. There's a ditch we have to cross, but we didn't want that bit of pasture to go to waste. So we fenced it in with electric fence. We've got a creep panel that leads from the main pasture into that lot. That allows our calves to get in there and get that extra forage. We also put a feeder in there so that they can supplement their diet. So not only are we using what forage is available for us, but we've also increased the quality of our calf crop. There's less stress at weaning. They're already acclimated to the feed, not to mention their weights are higher than they had been before. The 2014 farm upgrades. In late May of 2014, we purchased additional acreage, 150 acres, 30 of which is cleared land and 120 of which is wooded. That gives you a good representation, and this is a typical ratio for our area. You can see how much cleared land we have to how much wooded land we have. That's what it looked like when we bought it. You can tell it hadn't been maintained really for several years. You can see the slope again where we're in the mountains, but there's a lot of brush and briars there that we had to take care of. So what did we do? We used those best management practices that have already proven to be effective on our other farms. We went in and we bush hogged, and that's the top picture there. What you can't see is the dual wheels had to be put on that tractor so that we could safely go over it. That's a Ford 4630, and it's kind of hard to tell from that picture, but the majority of that brush is tractor high, if not higher. So we don't want that stuff coming back. After we bush hogged, we let it sit for a little bit, then we went in and we sprayed the 2,4-D and the crossbow. There are a few fields on that farm that we want to use for pasture, so we went in and we fertilized with the 19 on those fields. There's one field there that we can use for hay production, but it was rough for various reasons, so we went in and we disked that field and smoothed it up, and that's the bottom picture there on the right. Then we went in and we seeded it with the Potomac orchard grass and the winter wheat, and we did that in late September. We're also fencing on that farm. When we purchased it, there was not a single strand of fence on it, so we're trying to get that ready and get it fenced so we can get calves on it this spring. These 2 pictures are taken from the same vantage point as the before pictures you just saw. That's what it looked like after we went over it with the bush hog. These 2 pictures are the field that we want to use for hay. We put the seed in late September. The top left picture, it was taken on October 13th. October 27th, we went in with 19 and fertilized. The bottom right picture is what it looked like December 14th. We realize we've got plenty of room to improve. We're just really getting started in the farming business, trying to do it as much as we can. But some things we want to improve on. We want to soil test. We want to do our hay fields annually, get on a good rotation system with our pasture fields, and do those about every 3 years. We also want to do hay tests, maybe do 3 fields per year. That way we can really show our customers what they're getting from us, and they can see it on paper, what quality forage they're purchasing. We also want to develop better storage systems for our net wrap bales, whether that be putting gravel down, putting pallets down, but hopefully it means building some more hay sheds or barns. We also want to continue to improve our pasture quality to increase our cow herd numbers. One way we certainly want to do that is to implement more rotational grazing. And we're hoping that through these improvements and those management practices that we're already utilizing, that we will be the best operation we can be for our area. Thank you. Yes, sir.
How old's your operation? When did you guys start to work on the farm?
How old is our operation? Well, Reed's had a lot of the farming since he was young, 12, 13-ish, but he and I have been together 4 years, 5. I don't know how, I don't know. Oh, goodness. We've been together for several years, but I don't know at which point you would, I didn't write the day on the calendar. We started farming together. We've been married about 1.5 years, but we were farming together before that, so 2 or 3 years.
You've been actively managing it for 3 or 4 years or something?
Yes.
Very good. Any other questions?
Now you mentioned soil testing there at the end of your talk, so you took away my other question, but do you have an idea of what the phosphorus levels are like in that soil? I hear Kentucky has pretty high phosphorus, and triple 19 might be adding more phosphorus than you need.
The question was the level of phosphorus in our fields. I can't really speak to that. I've not looked at a soil test. I know Reed had some done before I came along. I don't know what those are, but our plans are really to start soil testing here in the next little bit. So maybe in a few months I can give you a better answer on that one.
What is your vision for in 20 or 30 years? Do you want to be solely farming, or will you always be supplementing with what I call a city job?
The question was if we want to hopefully be farming full-time in the future or if we'll be supplementing with another job. I think I speak for both of us when we say we want to farm full-time just as quick as possible. We're pretty young, especially for our area. There aren't very many young producers, and we're trying our hardest right now to build up nest eggs so that hopefully we can have just a full-time farming operation.
Any other questions? With that, let's give Kevin a round.
Thank you.